Found on the High Seas, a serialized gay romance taking place aboard the Caribbean ocean liner, the Majestic Sun. Follow along as I take everyone on a Caribbean adventure with humor, love, and of course, destruction. Penned by Rylie Mason, narrated by me, Brian Shepard. Episode 7, Rescue. The aftershocks have since settled, setting out the last of the waves across the Caribbean waters. All marine traffic had come to a halt, as there were no ships and or boats on water, except for one, the Topaz, which has capsized, slowly sinking bow first. Because of the quick action within all cruise ship companies, no other ship or passenger was lost to this unfortunate incident. News had begun to trickle in on other ships. The Majestic Seas was now making its way through the Yucatan Channel, on its way to dock in Havana, as most other ports were filled up. To ease the tension and worry on board, Ben was able to convince Brian to allow onboard activities and entertainment to resume after closing everything up and having guests remain in their cabins or dining room. Ben finally found Brian sitting on a bench towards the bow. The breeze and the sun felt amazing now that the ship had sailed far enough north to escape the stormy weather. When Ben approached, he knelt down in front of him. "You okay?" he asked, lifting Brian's chin with his finger. "We lost the Topaz. News just came in." "What? Like they got lost, or... Oh no, what about Rylie and Britain? They must be okay." Brian didn't answer, which caused some eyes to go wide. "They're saying a rogue wave came through and damaged the ship, which then sank. They're not sure about survivors. Last radio call from the bridge said a wave was coming, and then silence." "What can you say when you just find out that your friends may have gone down with the ship? No one ever wants to hear that, as everyone is pretty much family and is treated as such within Majectic. What's worse is another storm is due to roll through, making any attempt for a search and rescue risky," Brian said, as he could see the shock and worry on Ben's face. "Sir, you're needed on the bridge. A call has come through for you," a crewman said as he approached Brian and Ben. Looking at Ben, Brian got up from the bench, wondering if it's the news that no one wants to hear. To finalize it, both headed for the bridge and would soon find out. On the bridge, Brian could see out the windows. Every pier was filled with cruise ships from various companies. Not one dock was empty. Walking over to the back wall, Brian picked up the receiver, which was resting on the top of the phone box. "This is Captain Jericho." "Good morning, Captain. This is Lynette Giovanni, CEO of Operations. I have an update and a task for you." Lynette Giovanni just recently stepped into this role as the outgoing CEO of Operations was fired after the sinking of the Majestic Star. Internal investigation found Johnny Boy guilty. Sending a ship where it should not have belonged was dangerous. Since Johnny was in charge, the first ship nearly sank, yet explosives were used in various areas of the ship, causing millions of dollars in repairs and revenue loss. Big time. Then the Star collided with ice, and down she went. That in itself was an insurance nightmare. So while the company did its investigation, Johnny was still able to perform his duties, and before he was fired, he managed to purchase 2 more cruise liners and hired a Majectic representative to get those 2 ships up and in service quickly. Again, ships are built to move. Lynette had been a captain herself, which back then was a rare thing. A female captain of a giant ocean liner? Who would have thought? Jericho and her started with Majectic around the same time. The company had been on the search for a replacement as to not keep the position open. They wanted someone right away. However, the board would be selecting and voting themselves as to who captains and holds key positions. A vote was called, and they answered with Lynette. Which brings us back to poor Johnny Boy, who again got the can as even more bad and unfortunate things happened, causing his first new ship to capsize. And when that happened, it also killed his new representative. Which brings us to the other and final purchase he made, ship number 2. Majectic Voyage. Sounds fancy, right? We'll get to the details later. You want me to do what? Brian asked as he took the receiver from his ear and looked at it, confused. You heard me, Brian. They need your help. Besides, the ship still has its crew, so you won't be needing to bring anyone from your ship. You can just jump on board and take her out. No way. I have to bring Ben with me, Brian protested. I do not see the need for your cruise director to accompany you. It's dangerous as it is, she snapped back. Lynette was always by the book, which meant she was not fond of couples working on the same ship. She's only mad because she found her husband with a dancer from one of the dinner shows on a cruise they were working on together. Whoopsie! Jason should have kept it in his pants. Now Lynette brings her roommate, Linda, as she will say, with her when everyone knows it's her girlfriend. Maybe she needs a little remembering. Lynette, he goes with me, and that's final. It's either that or I refuse her transfer. Ah, this will certainly get her attention. Linda was to transfer from the Sun, where she currently works in housekeeping. Seems someone was not happy that Barbara made her do her job, so we complained, and a transfer was requested. Really, jerk. Fine, please be careful. Your replacement should be arriving soon to then bring your ship back to Florida. You are also to bring the voyage back to Florida in one piece. Which, of course, she meant it. No losing ships on her watch. The plan is to transfer Captain Jericho to the Majectic Voyage, to then sail back to the Topaz, hopefully in time for a rescue. The updated news had all ships still banned from sailing. The Coast Guard helped along the coasts and really stretched with people who suffered while docked in some hard-hit areas. Rescues were happening everywhere. Now it would seem that we need to add Ben to the mix. Wait, we're doing what? I'm tired of this guy changing his mind and bouncing me from ship to ship. Anyway, yes, I'll go, he said while sighing. Sorry, Ben. I'm sure I'll make it up to you. Brian's replacement arrived just in time as both Brian and Ben were ready to make the switch to the other ship, which just happened to be docked 4 ships down. Of course, on the walk over is when Brian filled in Ben with the rest of the update. So, the representative used the company app to send out a distress call? Now that we have that app on our phones, it actually worked. So we are assuming there are survivors and no one else? It does come in handy. It's the one thing Johnny agreed we had, Brian answered, knowing that there was more to follow. So what are we supposed to do? Just sail down there on a ship that was about to be launched, brand new into rough seas to see if anyone survived? Which, yes, I really do hope, and I hope that we don't get into deep waters ourselves. Get it, deep water? Never mind. Am I missing something? Nope, that pretty much summed it up. Again, our friends may need our help, Brian said as he and Ben walked on to the Majectic Voyage. The Majectic Voyage was again the last ship to be acquired before Johnny got the boot. Originally known as the SS Canberra, she was built at Harland and Wolff Shipyard in Belfast, Northern Ireland at the cost of $17 million. The ship was named on the 17th of March, 1958, after the federal capital of Australia, Canberra. She was launched on 16th of March, 1960, and entered service in May of 1961. Of course, you had to hear me say it over and over again. Ships get sold and change hands, along with names. More and more people were starting to fly during that time to reach their destinations, only because, of course, it was quicker. In an attempt to keep passengers from jumping ship, in 1961, while still a student at the Royal College in London, the now famous British artist David Hockney, who was born in 1937, was commissioned to create a mural for the Pop Inn, a special lounge for teenagers on board. Hockney graffitied and drew on the walls for 5 days, and the fee earned assisted him to travel to New York for the first time. A teenager's lounge? Who would have heard of such things? Which seemed to win passengers over as cruises continued, while also going through a refit to make the ship more better. The reason why Lynette chose this ship is because she herself captained the voyage, so she is aware of the powerful engines that are bolted to the bottom of the ship's belly. The Canberra has a turbo-electric transmission, instead of being mechanically coupled to her propeller shafts. Canberra's steam turbines drive large electric alternators that provide current for electric motors that, in turn, drove the vessel's twin propellers. They were the most powerful steam turbo electric units ever installed in a passenger ship. That's 42,500 horsepower per shaft. They surpassed the SS Normandy's 40,000 horsepower on each of her 4 shafts. This would give her a speed of about 27.25. And for all you non-mariners, that's 31 miles per hour. She also has a bow propeller for maneuvering in port and docking maneuvers. She is also the first British passenger liner to use alternating current as power. After changing hands multiple times, aiding in the Falkland War, she was sold, only to be put out of service. Pretty much forgotten about until Johnny caught wind of a sale happening. The ship, still in working condition, as all it did was just sit in dry dock. The owners were good about keeping things up to date and working properly. They sold because the refit was costing way more than what they were quoted, resulting in the company throwing down the anchor and closing up. Believe it or not, Johnny was able to buy it for a steal. Remember it costing $17 million? Majectic paid $289,000 and has spent $2.3 million on a new refit. It was scheduled to launch in Nassau in 2 weeks. Looks like it might be delayed. Everything was all set. Everyone was in place, and now the ship was given clearance to get underway, which Majectic had pretty much to beg, noting to the authorities that there would be rescue and medical teams on board to assist with any emergency. Let's hope it's just the one, as Ben knew time was running out. He would be right, as the Topaz is only going to hang around for so long before it decides to simply let go and plunge into the sea forever. Hello, everyone, and thank you for listening to episode 7 of Lost. 8 is coming right up, but I'm also busy writing the next book, the next series, which is Political Chaos. And that has to do with presidents, vice president, a gay couple in the White House, and of course, romance. But there's also murder, scandal, and a national emergency event that happens. So it's going to be a great book. Coming soon, don't worry.